Hello and welcome. In this lesson, I am going to teach you all of the tenses in the English language. For each tense, I will show you the form, its different uses, and I will share with you example sentences to help you fully understand it. So let's begin. Before we get into the lesson, first understand three basic forms of the main verbs. That is the base form, which is also known as root form, or present form or infinitive form. Second is the past form and participle form. In order to use many verb tenses in English, you need to know the past forms of the verbs. The root form of a verb is the base form of the word. It is used to create other forms of the verb when conjugated. This is always true with regular verbs, but may not apply with irregular, depending on the tense. So you must be thinking, what are regular verbs? Regular verb in English creates the past simple and past participle by adding d or ed to the base form. For example, print, printed, printed. Arrive, arrived, arrived. Wait, waited, waited, etc. And what are irregular verbs? Verbs which have the same base form, past simple and past participle, like hit, 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 hurt, 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 etc. Verbs which have the same past and past participle. For example, tell, told, told. Here, past form and past participle are same. Then another irregular verbs are which have the same base form and past participle form, like come, came, come, become, became, become, etc. Now, fourth type of irregular verbs which have a different base form, past form and past participle form, means all are different. Do, did, done, go, went, gone. So children, learn these regular and irregular forms of verbs. Now let's see the chart showing all the tenses. There are three types: present, past and future. And there are four aspects like simple, continuous, perfect and perfect continuous. The times and the aspects combine to make all of the 12 tenses in English. The present time and the simple aspect make the present simple tense. Then we have the present continuous, present perfect and the present perfect continuous tenses. In the same way, we can make tenses with the past and future times as well. We are going to discuss all of this in this lesson. So let's begin with the first tense, the present simple. We make the present simple tense with a subject like I, you, we, they, he, she, it and a verb in the present form or first form of the verb. For example, we go to bed early. Children, one thing you have to keep it in mind. In the present tense, if the subject is I, you, we or they, we use a verb without s. And if the subject is he, she or it, we add s to the verb. Second example is she goes to bed early. So the sentence structure is subject plus base form of the verb plus predicate. Now the sentence structure for negative is subject plus don't or doesn't plus base form of the verb. Remember, if the subjects are I, you, we, they, we use don't, and if the subjects are he, she, it or any name, we use doesn't. Now the sentence structure for making question, you will use do or does plus subject plus base form of the verb. That is the first form. For example, do they go to bed early or does she go to bed early? Again, do is used with I, you, we, they, and does we are using with he, she, it or name. Now let's see the uses of present simple tense. It is used to describe habits, repeated actions or events. For example, she usually wakes up at 6 o'clock. To talk about general truth or universal truths. The sun rises in the east. Third, to give instructions or directions. like don't open that window. Fourth, to talk about something that is fixed in the future, that is tomorrow is a holiday. The next tense is the present continuous. We make the present continuous tense with the subject plus am is are plus a base form of the verb plus ing. We say I am. If the subject is he, she, it, we use is. And if the subjects are you, we, they, we use are. Let's see one example. She is writing to her grandma now. The sentence structure for negative sentences subject plus am is are plus not plus base form of verb plus ing. This is the short form of is not, isn't, are not, aren't. So let's see one example. She isn't writing to her grandma now. Now how we can frame question in present continuous tense? The structure is starting with am is are plus subject plus base verb plus ing. For example, is she writing to her grandma now? Now let's see the usage of present continuous tense. First, to talk about things which are happening at the moment of speaking. For example, don't go out, it's raining outside now. Second, to talk about things which happen again and again, repeatedly, like he is always talking in class. Third, to talk about things which are planned or arranged in the near future. For example, I am leaving for Canada tomorrow. This is a planned action and confirmed action. Fourth one, to talk about things which are changing or developing. For example, more and more YouTube channels are mushrooming nowadays. We are going now to look at the present perfect tense. We make the present perfect with the subject plus have or has plus verb in the past participle or third form of the verb. We say have if the subject is I, you, we or they, and has if the subject is he, she, it or any name. Let's see one example. She has done her homework. Now let's see the sentence structure for making negative sentences in present perfect tense. First comes subject, then has or have plus not plus past participle, that is the third form of the verb V3. For example, she has not done her homework. How to frame question? Starting with has or have plus subject plus past participle, that is third form of the verb, that is has she done her homework? Now let's see the uses of present perfect tense. First is to talk about things which happened in the past and continue to the present. For example, my parents have lived in America for 20 years. Second, to talk about things which happened in the past but not at a specific time. For example, my mom has gone to work but specific time is not mentioned. Third, to talk about things we have done many times in the past and continue to do. Like she has practiced the piano since she was 6 and she is doing it now also. Fourth, to talk about the experience which is connected to the present. Example, this is the most beautiful flower I have ever seen. Next is present perfect continuous tense. We make present perfect continuous tense with the subject plus have or has been plus a verb in continuous or ing form. If the subject is I, you, we, they, we use have. If the subject is he, she, it or name, we use has. For example, she has been waiting here for 2 hours. This is an affirmative statement. Now let's make the negative statement or sentence structure. Let's see. First comes subject plus has or have not, because we have to make negative statement now, plus base verb plus ing. Example, she hasn't been waiting here for 2 hours. Now let's see the question form. Structure is starting with has or have plus subject plus been plus base verb plus ing. Like, has she been waiting here for 2 hours? The usage of present perfect continuous tenses to talk about an unfinished action or things with a connection between the past and the present. For example, I have been working here since 1990. That means actions that started in the past and are still continuing. Now let's see the comparison between present perfect and present perfect continuous tense. The similarity is both talk about an action that began in the past and is still going on or has just finished. But the difference is Present perfect emphasize on an action that is completed. I have already done my homework, or I can say I have finished my homework. But present perfect continuous emphasize on that something is not finished. For example, I have been doing my homework since 3 p.m. I am still doing my homework. Second point, present perfect talk about how much or many have been completed. For example, my mom has made 11 cookies. And in present perfect continuous, let's see the example. It talk about how long something has been happening. My mom has been making cookies for 3 hours. Third point in present perfect, it talks about permanent situations. I have lived here for 10 years. It's a permanent situation, but present perfect continuous emphasize on temporary situations. For example, I have been living here for 2 weeks. Let's now talk about the past simple tense. We make the past simple tense with a subject and a verb in the past, or the second form of verb, that is V2. This tense is used to talk about the completed actions in the past. For example, I was sick yesterday. They were sick last week. If the subject is I, she, he or it, we use was. And if the subjects are they, we, you, we use were. Now let's see other verbs. Some verbs have special past forms. You see that in sentence number 2 in the third column. The verb went. This is the past tense of the verb go. We say go, went, gone. Gone is the past participle or third form of the verb. These types of verbs are called irregular verbs. There are no rules for making past forms with them, so you have to memorize the correct forms. So let's see the sentence structure for making negative statement. First comes subject plus was or were plus not plus predicate. Was is used for singular objects and were is used for plural objects. Children, remember was and were are the past form of the be form of verbs. Now let's see the negative sentences, how to frame it. A negative sentence states that something is not true or incorrect. So the sentence structure is subject plus was or were plus not plus predicate. Was not, short form is wasn't. Were not, contraction is weren't. For example, I wasn't sick yesterday. They weren't sick last week. So it's a negative statements. Now let's see the sentence structure of interrogative sentences. So in past simple tense, we can make interrogative sentence in this manner, starting with were or was plus subject plus rest part of the sentence. For example, were you sick yesterday? Were they sick last week? Etc. Fortunately, there is a formula for making simple past verbs negative, and it is the same for both regular and irregular verbs, except for the verb to be. The formula is did not plus root form of the verb. You can also use the contraction didn't instead of did not. Here children usually get confused when to use was and were and when to use did. So here is your answer. Was or were is used with the state verb. Was is the past tense of is and were is the past tense of are. And did is used with an action verb. Did is the past tense of do. So remember, did for action and was were for description. Now let's see the sentence structure of interrogative sentence in past simple tense, starting with auxiliary verbs were or was plus subject plus predicate. For example, were you sick yesterday? Were they sick last week? And in other verbs, question sentence structure is starting with did plus subject plus base form of the verb. For example, did she go shopping last month? Did you get up late yesterday? Let's see the usage of past simple tense. It is used to talk about actions finished in the past. I met him last week. Secondly, to talk about a series of actions completed in the past. For example, I woke up, had breakfast and went to school. Okay, let's now move on and talk about the past continuous tense. The past continuous tense talks about an unfinished ongoing action in the past. And normally we also mention another finished action that interrupted it. For example, She was cooking when I came. We make this tense starting with subject plus was and were plus verb in ing form. We say was for the subjects if the subjects are I, he, she or it, and were for you, we, they. Let me give you one more example. It was raining when Priya left for work. Let's see the sentence structure for negative in past continuous tense. First comes subject plus was, were plus not, then verb base form plus ing. For example, she wasn't cooking when you came. And let's see the interrogative sentence in past continuous tense starting with auxiliary verb were or was plus subject plus verb that is base form plus ing. For example, was she cooking when you came? Now let's see the usage of past continuous tense to talk about an incomplete action at a specific time in the past. For example, Max was playing games yesterday afternoon. Second, to talk about an incomplete action that was interrupted by another. For example, I was doing my homework when my mom called. Third, to talk about two actions that were happening at the same time. For example, my mom was cooking while my dad was reading newspaper. Fourth, to talk about an action that happens many times and irritates the speaker. For example, she was always talking in class. We are now going to look at past perfect tense. We make it with a subject plus had plus a verb in past participle or third form of verb. When we have two actions in the past, we use the past perfect to clearly show which action happened first. For example, she had done her homework. Two actions has taken place. First action, she had done her homework. And what is the next action? You came. So what happened first? She had done her homework. So the past perfect tense is for talking about something that happened before something else. In another word, it is used to make it clear that one event happened before another in the past. Now let's see how to frame negative sentences using past perfect tense. First comes subject, then had not plus past participle, that is third form. And had not, short form is hadn't. Example, she hadn't done her homework. Now how to make interrogative? The sentence structure is starting with had plus subject plus past participle. Had she done her homework when you came? Now let's see some usage of past perfect tense. It is used to talk about something started in the past and still continued to a given time in the past. For example, I had learned English for 10 years. Second example, to talk about something happened before another action in the past. For example, my mom had come home before it rained. Alright, let's turn to our next tense now. This is the past perfect continuous. This tense is just like the past perfect simple, except the first past action is continuous. For example, she had been cooking in the kitchen for house when I got home. It expresses longer actions in the past before another action in the past. The past perfect continuous tense is constructed using had been plus base form plus ing. For negative sentence, we insert not after the first auxiliary verb. For example, she had not been cooking in the kitchen for hours when I got home. For question sentence, we exchange the subject and the first auxiliary verb. For example, had she been cooking in the kitchen for hours when you got home? Now let's see the usage of past perfect continuous tense. The past perfect continuous is partially like the present perfect continuous, but it refers to a continuous action that was finished at some point in the past. For example, he had been waiting for me for hours before I came. Second example, I recognized that I had been doing nonsense things to change her. Alright, now we move on to talking about the future. The first tense for us to look at is the future simple. Now this tense is a little tricky because there are a few different future simple forms. The three most important are going to, the present continuous using ing verb, and will. Let's talk about where to use these. We use going to express plans and intentions. We make this form with the subject plus M is are and then going to plus a verb with its base form. For example, my mom is going to buy a car. That means she has a plan to buy a car soon. Now, if it is more than a plan, if she has made the arrangements, then we use the present continuous. This is a tense you know already, and when we use it to talk about the future, it is stronger than going to. For example, I am having lunch with my parents on Saturday. So my parents and I have a plan to do that, but also we have agreed on the time and place. It is fixed. Now you must be thinking, what is the difference between going to and present continuous? So the present continuous tense is mainly used to talk about personal arrangements and fixed plans. And going to can also be used to express the same idea. However, it puts an extra emphasis on the idea of intention. So going to is about plan and present continuous is about arrangement, fixed arrangements. But what about will? Will is used to express instant decisions, that is decisions that we make suddenly at the time of speaking, or offers and promises. So we make this form with the subject plus will plus a verb in its base form. For example, my mom will go shopping tomorrow. So will is used to express future intentions that are decided at the time of speaking, spontaneous offers, promises and decisions. Let's see how to make the negative form. Here we use subject first plus will not plus base verb. Will not contraction is won't. For example, my mom won't go shopping tomorrow. Now question sentence. Will starting with will plus subject plus base verb. For example, will your mom go shopping tomorrow? Now let's see the usage of future simple tense. It is used to talk about prediction. For example, I'm sure he will come late. Second, to express a spontaneous decision, that is, I will get there by bus. Third, to make an offer or promise. For example, I will take care of your cat carefully. Alright, let's now move on and talk about the next tense, the future continuous. We make the future continuous tense with the subject plus will be plus base form of verb plus ing. For example, my mom will be going shopping this time tomorrow. So the future continuous tense expresses an action that will be ongoing, that will be in progress at some time in the future. Let's see how to frame negative sentence starting with subject plus will be not plus base verb plus ing. For example, my mom won't be going shopping this time tomorrow. Now let's see how to frame question. Interrogative sentence starting with will. This is for future continuous tense. Will plus subject plus be plus base verb plus ing. For example, will your mom be going shopping this time tomorrow? Let's see the usages of future continuous tense. First, to talk about an action at a particular moment. For example, at 8 p.m. tomorrow, I will be watching TV. Second, to talk about something that will be in progress. For example, don't come to his office now, he will be working. We now turn to the next two tenses. We are going to look at these together, the future perfect and the future perfect continuous. For example, I will have done my homework by 5 p.m. This sentence shows that the action will be complete by that time. This is the future perfect tense. It takes a point in the future like 5 p.m. and it looks back, it talks about the completion of an action by that time. We make the sentence by subject plus will have plus past participle, that is third form of verb, that is V3. The future perfect tense is quite an easy tense to understand and use. The future perfect talks about the past in the future. So again I am telling you the structure of the future perfect tense is subject plus auxiliary verb, that is will, plus auxiliary verb have plus main verb, which is past participle or third form of verb. Now let's see how to make the negative sentences in future perfect tense starting with subject plus will not have. Just simply add not between will and have plus past participle. For example, I won't have done my homework by 5 p.m. Now question sentence starting with auxiliary verb will. Will plus subject plus have plus past participle. For example, will you have done your homework by 5 p.m.? Let's see the usage about future perfect tense to talk about a completed action in the future. For example, she will have got here by this time next year. My parents will have visited my home by next Monday. The future perfect continuous, also sometimes called the future perfect progressive, is a verb tense that describes actions that will continue up until a point in the future. The future perfect continuous consists of will plus have been plus the verb's present participle, that is the present form plus ing. When we describe an action in the future perfect continuous tense, we are projecting ourselves forward in time and looking back at the duration of that activity. The activity will have begun sometime in the past, present, or in the future and is expected to continue in the future. Let's see the example. I'll have been working here for 3 years in April. One more example. At 5 o'clock, I will have been waiting for 30 minutes. Now let's see how to frame negative sentences, starting with subject plus will not have been plus verb, base form and ing. For example, I won't have been working here for 3 years in April. And question form, starting with will plus subject plus have been plus verb ing. For example, will you have been working here for 3 years in April? Let's see the usage of future perfect continuous tense. First, it is used to talk about an action that are not finished now but will be finished in the future. For example, on Friday, I'll have been staying here for a week. By the time the train comes, I'll have been waiting for 3 hours. The future perfect simple and the future perfect continuous tenses are not that common. They are found very little in speech and a little more in writing. Understanding these two tenses can be helpful, but don't worry too much if you are not sure how to use them correctly. And children, if you like this lesson, give it a thumbs up by hitting the like button. And if you are new to my channel, click that subscribe button and the little bell icon next to it to get my latest lessons right here. So children, happy learning and I will see you in another lesson soon. Take care. Thank you.